Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today, it's the February half-time report. We're going to see how I've been getting on with my pens. Then after we've done that, I'm going to give you a quick tour around my office and my recording setup. So join me now, let's jump in and look at this month's pens. So these videos, they're still an experiment. I'm still playing around with the format. With this video, I've got no script. This is all just me sat here. I've got a cup of peppermint tea and I'm just talking with you. I will keep looking every so often over to my side. I do have there a board, but that's just got the names of the pens that I'm using just so I make sure I get them right. This month's pens, well, the first one is this. This is the Baoer 51. Nice pen. I think it was about $5. Yep, $5. I've just checked the list. Start of the month, I had a little bit of Diamine Merlot in here. That ran out, to be honest, the first day of using it. So I've swapped that and I've now got Diamine Ochre, which is a gorgeous orangey coloured ink, but it shows loads of shading, even in this pen, which has got a fine nib. Really enjoying it. Finding the nib occasionally can be a little bit scratchy, but that's what you expect. You know, you're paying $5. Over the next couple of weeks, I will slightly work on the nib just to smooth it out a little bit more. Second pen, this is the Kaco Edge. This is a lovely pen. Medium nib on it. See if I can actually find the focus point. There we go. No. Never tried to do a film. And there we go. I found it eventually. I've got such a small focal point on here. Anyway, it's a medium nib. It's made of Makrolon. It's a nice material, it's very light, and you can hardly feel it in your hand. I started the month with Diamine Earl Grey. Loved that ink in this pen, it's got a lovely dark grey colour. After a couple of days, it did run out. What I decided to do is I've actually now got Noodler's Heart of Darkness, so a really deep, dark black ink. Enjoying that as well. To be honest, I'm enjoying using the pen. It's got a very, very smooth nib. It's like using an Apple Pencil on an iPad screen. It's very glassy. In one respect, I don't actually like that. I think I may need to add a bit of roughness to it. But the pen itself, yeah, really liking it. Why I've got Noodler's Heart of Darkness in here? My normal pen that I use for black ink, which is a TWSBI Eco, well, that also ran out this month. So I thought, well, let's swap it up. And I'm going for the next few months, I'll be using this pen with the black ink in it. So I thought, well, let's give that a try whilst it's a pens in use as well. Pen number 3 for this month. This one here, this is the Wingsung 698. Again, it's a nice pen. It's transparent. Hopefully that'll come through on the camera. You know, I keep pointing this to my view screen and not the camera. There we go. That's better, isn't it? I'll have to get better at doing this. Fine nib on it. This is a steel nib. Nice pen. There wasn't much ink in it at the start of the month. This is a piston filler and it takes quite a bit of ink. So again, after a couple of days, it ran out. And rather than fill it up again, because it takes that much ink, it takes ages to write out, I swapped pens and in its place, I've now got a Jinhao 992. This is one of the cheapest pens I've got. This cost me $2 Australian. Dirt cheap pen. It's got a fine nib. There we are. Oh, no, I nearly had it in focus. There we go. I keep going. There we go. Fine nib. Hopefully you can see that. Nice pen. A little bit on the small side. In there, I've got Diamine Chocolate Brown. Pen number 4. The Dian 960. Love this pen. Love the colour. It fits so nicely into my hands. In there, there's a nice, gorgeous blue ink by Pure Pens, and it's called Celtic Sea. Loads of shading come out on this. Really enjoying using this pen as well. Next up, we've got, and I've said this time and again, one of my favourite pens, the Moonman M800. This is in the gorgeous amber colour. Just very quickly, there we go. I'm just slowly rotating it a little bit. This pen, it's run out of ink again. Actually ran out when I was using it 2 days ago, I think it was. That's fine. You know, I was expecting this. One of the reasons for doing this month, I have loads and loads of Chinese pens inked up that I've been using in other videos. So I thought, well, this is a way to empty them out by using them as pens in use. This is empty. I do have another M800, which is inked up. which has got a Goulet broad nib on it. So I'll be swapping that in when the M800 next comes up. The final pen that I started this month with is this one. This is another Wingsung 698. What's different between this and the other one? Am I getting better at finding that focus point? No, I'm not. There we go. This has got a 14 karat gold nib. Now, one of the things, as you can see here, I've noticed, the nib, it does get stained quite easily. I've got Diamine writer's blood in here. It's a fairly wet ink. It's a boring colour, I've got to be honest. It's like a grey with a hint of blue. It does have an ink window because, again, this is a piston filler. So I can get a rough idea how much ink is in there, and I think there's still a fair bit. It's Diamine writer's blood in here. The nib on here is so nice. It's soft. It's got a nice bounce to it. It's gorgeous line variation. I'm really enjoying using this one. So that's the pens that I've been using so far this month. I'll say, very quick update. Coming up over the next about month and a half, I've got 4 unboxing videos which I've now got recorded. The first one is for this. This is the Narwhal Nautilus in the Pelagia Noctiluca pattern. It's a horrible name to say. I'm really struggling with that, but just look at this. Just quick look there. So I've got an unboxing filmed ready to go for that. I've got a Leonardo. This is the Leonardo Ferrari. This is in white salt. Really nice colour. I've got a Leonardo Memento Magico. There we go. Let me see if I can get that. This is in the meal colour, which is like a honey colour. I've got an orange ink here. I've got an orange ink in here at the moment. May change that. You know, when you see the unboxing, you'll see what I think of that colour. Then the final unboxing that will be coming up is this one. This is a Visconti, and it's the Van Gogh. Let me see if I can take my finger off there just so you can see the colours on here. I believe this is from the portrait. Nice pen, unusual pen, a bit small as well. So that really looking forward to sharing those with you. I'm now going to give you a tour of my office. I will be honest with you, I have filmed this and I'm scrapping it because as I'm moving around the office, it's all handheld and the camera, it shakes too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a series of photos and try and overlap them slightly so you can get an idea for where everything sits. So please join me and we'll jump into the tour. In this first picture, what I've done is I've stood in the door which comes into my study. This used to be a games room, and I think someone at some time must have had a pool table because right in the middle of the room we've got this strip light. And I've got to be honest, I don't often use it. The desk that I've got, that's from IKEA, and it's a sit-stand desk. Really useful. It's got a little electric motor so it goes up using the motor. It's not one where you have to wind it up by hand. And I find it really handy because depending on what I'm doing, I can adjust the height of the desk. On either side of the desk, there's 2 large soft boxes with my lights in it. So I got these from Amazon. I'm going to say about 4 years ago. I've had them quite a while. I do remember they were $100, and that was for these 2 plus an overhead one, which I don't use. Each of these soft boxes, they came with 5 CFL bulbs. I've since changed them so they've got LED bulbs. I can control the number of bulbs that are on. At the back of the room, you can see that I've got the blinds open and looking out into the garden. Normally when I'm filming, they're closed. Just lets me control the amount of light that's coming in. On the right hand side, you can see a dresser. That's where I keep my stills camera. What we're now looking at, this is the view that I get when I'm recording my face parts. So it looks quite busy. It's not, but it's very cramped. And it's only for when I'm actually recording the face bit. So I'm actually recording using my iPhone 11 Pro. So you can see that in the middle. That's on a little plastic stand just to keep it up. Behind that, I've got a wooden drawer set. And in this particular one, I keep scrap paper. So I've always got scrap paper handy. I've got Spot and Kirk. They were part of the Ink Event gifts from my wife, so they're there. So I sit watching them virtually all day, every day. Above that, I've got a 27-inch Philips monitor. Nice wide monitor, really useful for when I'm working. To the left of that is my MacBook Pro. This is the heart of my system. It's where I do everything. Mainly I do my recording. I record into a free software package called Audacity, and that allows me to play around with my voice a little bit if I need to. Coming down towards the bottom of the desk, so we've got the phone. Next to that is a 9-inch iPad. that's what I actually use as the viewfinder. I use an application called Filmic Pro, so that's running on my phone, and then on the iPad that actually connects through to that so I can see what I'm looking at. There is a delay. That's one of the issues I do get. I find there's maybe a 2-second delay. It's livable, but when I'm trying to position something on the screen, it does make it a bit awkward. And then on the left-hand side, I've got another iPad, and this is the one where I've got my timers running. So where I'm doing things like my drying times for inks, I've got a number of predefined timers on here. We're going to jump back to the study door again. So now what I've done is I've actually lowered the desk. So this is where it is when I'm actually doing my overheads. When I'm recording an overhead, I lower the desk down as far as it will go. This is mainly to try and eliminate any sort of shake. Again, we can see here all my junk that I have on my desk. So now we're looking at what things look like when I'm recording my overheads. So again, most of this is the same. The big key difference is the phone now is in like a boom arm, and that hangs over the desk, and I can move that up and down so I can position it roughly where I want it to be for the recording. Again, I've got the iPad there with the Filmic app so I can see what is coming through the camera. At the moment on here, I've got the black mat down. Underneath that mat, there's a cork one as well, so I can very quickly change between the two depending on what I want to be recording. On the right hand side, you can see a little desk tray I've got on there. That's just a small, I think it's about an A6 size notebook. That's one which I take with me when I'm going out and about. Underneath my monitor, you can also see I've got my blotter so that I can get quick access to that when I'm working at my desk. So now we're moving over to the side of the desk. Attached to the left-hand side, I've got a couple of large bulldog clips. These are there for two reasons. The first one is underneath it, I've got a power strip with a number of plugs in, and it just won't stick to the bottom of the desk. So these are actually holding it in place. But then the handles, they give me nice hanging points so I can hang my spare cables on there. I've got a roll of gaffer tape on there, so if I ever need it, it's very handy. At the side of the desk, we've got two units from IKEA. So these are there to form cubes. One's got 4 along the top and 2 down, and the other one is 2x2. They're really handy. I can slot all these different, I'm going to call them drawers, but they let me hide so much rubbish. On the top, if we look at the end, I've got I'm calling it an in tray. It's not, it's my shred tray. So anything that's to be shredded goes in there. Next to that, I've got a fan. At this time of year, I need that fan running a lot of the time. I've got a magazine tray. In there, I've actually got the backgrounds that I can use in my photo cube, and we'll look at that in a second. In the middle, I've got something which is called the space cube. This is brilliant. It's got loads of little, not very tall shelves, so I can slot notepads onto there. I can get 2 A5 notepads side by side really easy. At the top, it's got some nice little areas, so I've got a post-it notes in one, I've got various junk in another, I've got elastic bands so I can sort and separate my stuff. At the side of it, it's got a holder for pens. Just in front of the pens, I've got a bottle of ink. That's there because I haven't swatched it yet, so I want to make sure it's there when I get round to it. And that's the Pilot Blue that came with my Custom 823. If I look underneath the space tray, you can see that on the left-hand side, there's what I would call a toolbox. In there, I've got things like spare nibs. I've got my micro mesh. So that's what I term my pen repair kit. And I will do a separate video on that at some time. I've got in there also my scales, which is what I use when I'm doing my Showdown videos. Next to that, I've got my tub, which is full of ink samples. Moving on, again, on the top of these units, next to that space cube, I've got 3 pen cases. So I've got one which takes 10 pens, the one in the middle, that takes 12, and then I've got my Gale and Leather portfolio. Next to that, and really at the back of that, is where I keep all my notepads that I'm currently using. I've got loads of different notepads running all the time. So I just find that's a nice, easy way. They're all in one place and they're all out of the way. Then underneath that, again, you can see I've got more junk. In the one on the left-hand side, the one on the top, this is where I keep my kit that I use when I'm filming my videos. So I've got some paper towel there, which is handy for wiping off the nibs and wiping off the sections. Underneath that, I've got a box of wet wipes. And you might say, well, why do you use wet wipes? Well, what I do when I'm doing my ink drying times, after each time I swipe, I actually use that to wipe off my fingers to hopefully get rid of any excess ink. So I've just stepped back so you can take a full look at the whole thing. The 2 wooden boxes, they're where I actually keep my inks. So the one on the left, that's purely Diamine ink. Then the one on the right, that's where all my other inks are. And these are the bottles because I've got that separate plastic tub there, which is where I keep all my samples. I've also got a couple of, I want to call them index card boxes, but that's where I keep all my swatches. just so I can easily get to them and very quickly find what I'm after. Okay, I'm looking behind me now. So you can see there on the right hand side, I've got a stool. I often switch between my chair and the stool and standing. Just gives me different ways of sitting, so it helps keep my back moving, to be honest. The little drawer unit behind that, that's full of notepads that I'm yet to start. Now, most of them notepads, they were cheap ones, and I'll get round to using them, but it's just somewhere to keep them where they're out of the way. On top of that, I've got, it's like a bamboo document holder, and I move that onto my desk when I'm doing my filming, because that's where I can then stand my script. So if we come to the IKEA unit again, got lots of things from IKEA here today. This one is a 3x4. We'll start at the top. That top shelving unit, that's got on there some A4 document cases. I'm going to do a separate video about these. I've bought these earlier this year, and then my wife's made some liners to go in them, and that's where I store my pens, so that they're sat on a nice cloth liner. They're in a box so I can easily get to them. And I'm in the middle of putting everything into there and labelling up the boxes. So hopefully, maybe even next month when I do this halftime report, we'll put it into there. Next to that, there's a little shelving unit. This is, again, it's where I put all my junk that I want easy access to. And the bottom of that shelving unit, I've got my bullet journal. And next to that, I've got a Rhodia notepad. And that's what I use for my writing practice. Below this one, you can see the white cube. That's my photo cube. You can also see that's where I put the stand when I'm not using it for my face shots. Then we'll move to the top of that, and here we can see we've got Baby Yoda sat there watching what I'm doing next to my IKEA plant. The reason for that plant, it was a bit of a joke really. When I was watching YouTubers last year, a lot of them were saying, you're not a real YouTuber unless you've got an IKEA plant. So when we actually went to IKEA the last time, I picked it up. And as I say, it's just a little bit of an inside joke. So we'll move along. This is the other side of that 3x4 cube. So here you can see, again, I've got another set of these drawers. This one's, it's labelled. So the top one, you can guess what it is, can't you? That's where I put any ink cartridges and stuff like that. Underneath that drawer, that's where I keep my spare blotting paper. On top of it, I've got sat a Diamine label maker. That's what I'm using for labelling all these new boxes that I've got. I've got my two little ink pot stands, and behind it I've got a pen pot. That's actually lined with crumpled up paper. So when I've cleaned a pen out, I then let it stand in there for a couple of days just to hopefully get rid of any last water that was in there, and it gets soaked up by the paper. To the left of that, I've got my in trays. Below all this, we've got some more of those shelves. The middle shelf, again, it's another one where I put junk. And the one on the left-hand side, that's more of these A4 cases for my pens. And no, the cases, they're not full. It's just when we were doing it, we bought a load, so there's hopefully a few years worth of growth in there. There's another view of these shelves. What I've got below them, again, from IKEA, these are some drawer units which fit in the cube. As you can see, I've got them labelled up. I love to have labels on things because that's how I know what's where. These are really handy. They just pull in and out really nice. They're nice and deep. Takes all sorts of junk and hides it away. And right down at the very bottom, on the left-hand side, that's where I keep my messenger bags. I've got two bags. There's the one you can see there, which is a large one. Then underneath it is a small one, which just takes my A5 Galen case really nicely. And I can squeeze my iPad in if I need to. The cube next to it, that's where I keep my printer paper. And then I've got a cube full of empty boxes that are just waiting for me to take them out and put them into the garage. Our next view, this is looking from my desk towards the walls. So in here, we've got on the left-hand side, there's a nice comfy chair. That's where I sit when I want to read. I've got a little coffee table so that I can put all my junk on there when I'm reading. Then I've got my printers, and they're sat on a cupboard. And in that cupboard, I've got hidden a Mac Mini and a whole load of hard drives, which is where I keep a lot of my storage. The little table with the table mat on, that just sits there most of the time, but when I'm recording, I move that to the side of my desk, and then that's where I put everything that I need. So the pens I'm going to be looking at, the inks, the swatches, they all just sit on there, and the table mat's there just to try and deaden any sound when I put things onto it. And our final picture, I'm just taking one step back and a final look at the whole area. So you can see, I'm not using a lot of space, but I can get a lot out of it. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I'd love to get your comments down below. How's the format of this video going? Do you like the off-the-cuff type video, or would you like me to go back, like with my other videos, and do them where it's more scripted? I'm planning for next month's Pens in Use, and I've got it down to 2 types of video. So I'm going to create a poll in the community tab. The 2 videos I want to choose from is I want to do either all gold nibs or all Taiwanese pens. And I'd love to get your input in it. So I'll open up that poll and I'll leave that open for about 3 or 4 days just to get an idea for what people would like to see, and then based on that, that will help inform me which set of pens to have for next month. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, well, it just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.